Hello everyone. So in this video we are going to discuss about the Nmap cheat. So Nmap is very powerful network scanner. Also we can run a couple of scans through Nmap for recon as well as web exploitation, database exploitation for firewall, Ids Ips bypass as well. So I have listed down some of the scans that you can perform. There are around, I have listed around 73 scans that you can perform, which includes from basic scan to the advanced scan. So we are just going to discuss all of them very quickly. Okay, I have discussed and performed all the scans in my Nmap pen testing course that is available on Udemy. So if you want to see each scan in a very depth and action, I have also shown the Wireshark capture of each scan to actually demonstrate what happens in the background under the hood when Nmap is scanning with each scan type. Also, I have demonstrated what are the advantages and disadvantages of each scan type that you can see over into that particular course. Yeah, so moving ahead, if you want to scan IP, you should type Nmap, the target IP address, and Nmap will automatically start scanning that particular target for top 1000 ports and it will give you the output. Next, if you want to scan a host, you can also scan a host. Instead of giving the IP this time, you can just give example.com and it will scan that particular host. Again, it will only scan for top 1000 ports. Remember, whenever you run any scan, the first scan that happens is a ping request that had been sent, a ping scan, as well as a TCP connect scan, which performs a full TCP three-way handshake. If you want to scan a range of IP addresses, you can also do that. You can scan from the first IP to the last IP. So you can just give 192.168.1.1. Let's say it is your first IP. Then you can just specify hyphen 255, the last host, into that particular subnet range. And this way you can scan all the IPs between the first IP and the last IP. Similarly, you can scan a subnet by giving IP address and giving /24. This way Nmap will start scanning each particular host and it will scan for the top 1000 ports and the hosts are alive or not. Basically, this is also performed for doing host discovery into any subnet network. The next one is scanning target from a text file. So in case you have a lot of targets into a text file, then you can just use -I capital L to scan a particular list of IP addresses from any input file. If you want to scan a target and ignore discovery, you can just use Nmap hyphen the target IP followed by -PN. So here basically you have to give the IP address and the main flag that need to be given is -PN where no ping will be sent. I have demonstrated how you can bypass the Windows firewall rule when ping is blocked and host discovery is turned off. So you can watch that particular video in that Nmap course and you will understand better, wherein I have demonstrated bypassing Windows firewall. Next is scanning target and host discovery. If you want to perform host discovery, just use -SP, it will do a ping scan. Next is single port scan. So if you want to scan a single port, you can specify that using -P and the port number you want to identify. It is open, closed, or filtered. So basically a port has three states. Open port is basically the communication can happen from client to the server. If it is closed, communication will not take place. If it is filtered, then there may be some kind of protection by the firewall or you are not authorized or allowed to scan through that particular port. Okay, so if you want to scan a range of ports, you can also give that -P is the flag that you want to use. Then you have to give the first port and -last port. So let's say I want to scan from first port, that is 1 to 1000, and then I just have to give -P space the first port 1-1000 and Nmap will start scanning all those ports from 1 to 1000. In case you want to scan all the ports, those are 65,535. You can also do that. You can specify -p- and Nmap will start scanning for all the ports to identify the status if those ports are open or closed. Next is if you want to specify specifically if you want to scan for TCP or UDP port, then you can also do that with the help of Nmap. The syntax is very simple: -p to specify that you are going to scan a port, and in case you want to scan a UDP port, just give u : the port number. So we know that DNS works on UDP port, so you can just give it u : 53. If you want to scan for any other TCP port, let's say 80, you want to scan for a HTTP port, then just give t : 80 and it will scan for a TCP port. Next is a fast port scan. In this, Nmap will do a fast port scan and it will try to identify only top 100 ports instead of top 1000 ports. So this particular scan is faster than the normal scan that we do using Nmap. The next is no randomized port scan. In this, you are not going to randomize the port numbers. So basically your Nmap is going to scan all the port numbers in a sequential manner. It can be given by the flag, which is -r. Remember, we have also started using -v everywhere. -v is nothing but just to show the output in verbose mode onto your screen so that you will know what is happening actually in the background by the Nmap. Next is the Nmap top port scan, wherein you can just scan the top ports, the top ports which are being scanned by Nmap for top 1000 ports. Okay. Next is the top port ratio scan, in which you will be able to scan the top ports again with the help of ratio. You can just give the ratio between 0 and 1 and it will start scanning those particular ports which are important. Next is port knocking or obfuscation as a security technique. You can also use Nmap for performing port knocking for those ports which are hidden. You can just use this particular syntax. Here I have written a Linux command which is forex, and from a list of these ports, run Nmap with no ping and choose the port number that from these ports number one by one with that particular server IP address, which is the target IP address, and done to finish this particular script. So in case you want to do service version detection and you want to identify which services are running onto that particular target, you can use -sv, which stands for service version, and you will be able to identify the version of the Apache server in case you are scanning port 80 for HTTP. In case you are scanning for FTP, let's say port 21, then you will be able to know that what actual server version is running. So let's say it is running VSFTPD version 1.1, then it may be outdated and vulnerable, and you can directly find an exploit for that and you can exploit directly. Next is light service version detection. You can specify the version intensity by giving 0. You can also give the version intensity to 5, which is aggressive service version detection, which will just show you more aggressive output and more in-depth detailed output. The next one is OS detection, in which you can identify which operating system is running onto that particular target, either it is Linux or Windows or Apple TV or anything like that, by giving -O. The next is -max OS retries. This is, you want to limit the retries the Nmap does before giving up the OS detection. By default it uses 5 retries. You can specify any retries you want by giving -max OS -tries space 1 2 3 4, anything that you want. You can also scan limit. You can limit the scan of OS detection, wherein Nmap will give up after a specific period of time. Next is OS guess. OS guess is basically, or fuzzy, instead of OS guess you can also use -fuzzy. This is basically, it will try to identify the operating system based on the fingerprint database that Nmap has. Next is a script which you can use, which is SMB OS discovery, and you can again identify the operating system. Next one is save normal output to a file. If you want to save output for any scan that you have performed and later on you think that output will be useful for you, you can just save it to a file by giving -on and the file name. On stands for output in normal format. You can always save the output in XML format as well by giving -ox. If you want to convert the XML output to CSV, which is helpful for recon purposes, because I generally, when I scan couple number of targets, I save their output in CSV. So after some days, let's say there is a exploit or 0-day that comes out for any vulnerability, I go back to the CSV, I filter and sort based on that particular exploit version, that software that was installed on all the targets, and this is the way I do exploitation on the IP addresses of the scans that I performed before. So this is a very helpful feature and good practice that every one of you can do. For this, you can utilize a Python written parser that is uploaded onto my GitHub, which is Shifa123 is the GitHub username. You can just go there and you can find out this parser, which converts the XML output into comma separated values. Okay, so the next is greppable output to a file, wherein you can get a greppable output by giving the -og flag. So basically you can grep the output if you want, or you can just filter out something from the output as per your need. The next one is kind of funny, which is the script kiddie output, in which you can use -S, which gives you a script kiddie type of output. And this is basically nothing, but it is kind of fun, wherein the output will become something like this. We also call this as lead language or script kiddie language. So in case you want to save the output to all the major file formats, you can use -OA and it will save your output in all the formats. In case you want to run default scripts, you can use -SC and it will run default safe scripts. So what are default scripts? Actually, Nmap has a powerful feature which is called as NSE, Nmap scripting engine, where there are different categories of scripts which falls under safe, default, intrusive, malware, DOS, etc. And the vulnerabilities or the scripts which actually lies in the default categories are considered to be safe, which are not intrusive or malware or DOS type. Nmap will automatically pick up those particular scripts and start running those scripts by default onto your target if you use -SC. So in case you don't know about any script, how it works, you can just take the help of -script -help and the script name, and you will be able to know how to use that particular script. Next is script args. This is basically if you want to give your custom arguments to a script, then you can give it this way. So for example, if I want to use a script, let's say FTP Brute, which is for brute forcing the FTP default credentials, and I want to supply my own word list of username password, I can give it using script args. Next one is specify scripts. If you want to specify any custom script, you can also give it this way, -script and the script name you want to scan. Okay. The next one is a set of scripts. So let's say if you want to scan for all the HTTP scripts, you can also use this way. Just give HTTP -* into the double inverted commas, and Nmap will start running all the HTTP scripts onto the particular target. So in case you want to check for any updates, you can just use -script equals to update db, and Nmap will automatically update the scripting engine database, and it will try to fetch if there are any new scripts updated by the Nmap community. If you want to run the safe scripts, you can use safe default. If you want to run the vulnerability script, just run one vulnerability vuln. If you want to run the DOS scripts, DOS. Exploit script, you can run exploit. All the scripts under these categories holds different severity and criticality. DOS scripts are mainly for performing DOS type of attack onto the particular target. This DOS scripts contains low risk type of attack scripts onto that particular target. Next is malware scripts, if you want to identify that if the target server is a malware or not. Next is intrusive, where it contains the attack scripts mostly. So let's say if you do not want to include any script, you can specify using not operator and the script type. If you want, you can use Boolean expression as well, wherein you can say, let's say and or not script type. So let's say if you want to say and use safe, or not, which means do not use, let's say malware or DOS script type, you can also run a Boolean expression scan that way. If you want to do a trace route and you want to identify the network hops from your computer to the particular target server, you can use trace route. If you want to find the geo location or geo resolution, you can also do that, and you can identify where the target is located, in which particular country the servers are located. So if you want to identify the DNS servers, you can also perform a DNS brute force, and you can identify the DNS names and DNS information from the particular server. If you want to identify how many hosts are there onto a particular IP, the virtual hosts that are running onto a particular IP, you can use this particular script, which is hostmap-bfk. The next one is whois, to identify the details about any target, the ASN range, or the registrar email address, and such other details. If you want to see the robots.txt file, then you can run this particular script, which is http:/robots.txt, wherein you will be able to identify what are the rules applied for the crawlers onto any particular target. The next one is the WAF detect, wherein you will be able to identify if there is any type of web application firewall which is onto the particular implemented on the particular target server by using http WAF detect. After you have detected that there is some kind of a web application firewall which is blocking your request, you can also fingerprint it using the http://waf-fingerprint script, and it will identify exactly which type of a WAF is running. So either it is a Cloudflare WAF or a Sucuri or any other type of WAF. You can also run a WAF woof versus Nmap scan, wherein you will be able to identify the comparison between both. I ran the comparison between both the tools. WAF woof is one of the most famous tool into the community for identifying WAF. So I have run the comparison, and I was able to see that both the tools exactly give the same output. Next is Firework Scan, wherein you are able to identify if some of the specific ports are blocked onto a particular firewall using this particular scan. Next is the Showdown Scan, where you can get banner grabbing or sensitive information from this internet connected search engine like Showdown. Next is email enumeration. If you want to enumerate any of the emails of any target server, so you can use http-grep, wherein this particular script will try to grep an email address. So you can specify http-grep @gmail.com. It will crawl that particular target and try to read something which comes under @gmail.com. The next one is the crawler scan, wherein you can run the user agent tester scan and test if you are allowed to test this particular user agent, or this particular crawler is allowed to crawl that particular target or not. For example, some of the websites block curl type of user agent, and they do not allow your curl request to be sent onto that particular target. The next one is the Nmap discovering directory scans, wherein you can run http-enum script, and you can identify if there is directory listing enabled or not, or some kind of juicy information from that particular target if directory listing is enabled. You may also tend to download some of the backup files, environment files, configuration files, or source code sometimes, which will basically increase the severity of your pen test, and you may also find a P1 critical vulnerability if you find some juicy information. The next one is open relay scan, wherein you can see if a target server is running an SMTP open relay, and you can utilize the SMTP server to send or receive the emails to any particular target. You can also enumerate if there are any SMTP users into that particular server and identify the names of that particular server, which is a sensitive data exposure type of vulnerability. The next one is SMTP Brute, wherein if there are default credentials for the SMTP server, you can brute force that and again perform the exploitation wherein you can send emails. Next is SMTP strange port, wherein you can detect if there is any backdoor which is running onto any particular target. Next is to identify the POP3 capabilities. So POP3 stands for Post Office Protocol, which runs on port number 110, and you can identify the POP3 capabilities of receiving the emails onto any target server. Next is the Imap capabilities, similar like POP3. This is Internet Message Access Protocol, which works on port number 143, and you can identify the capabilities as well. Next one is the IDS, IPS or Firewall Bypass type of scan, which is a cloak scan with decoy, wherein you can use any decoy IP address of any particular server, for example google.com, and you can use Google's IP address to scan your victim, and in the victim system logs there will be a IP logged which will be of Google instead of you. So this way you can spoof basically your IP address and you can scan any type of target you want. Next one is Spoof Mac Address. You can also spoof your computer's media access control, that is the MAC address, and you may sometimes bypass if there are restrictions based on MAC address onto any particular network. You can also change your interface of scanning. So let's say you do not want to scan from your AT80, you can also use WLAN0 by specifying using -e flag. The next one is Nmap source port modify, wherein you can modify your source port for your scan that you are running for the particular packet request that you are sending to make a connection to the particular target. So you can see you can do that by --source -port, and you can specify any port number you want, and your request will be initiated from that specific port number. The next one is fake TTL. So TTL stands for time to live, which is basically the round trip time it takes for a particular request to come back. So we can identify operating systems based on TTL. So generally it is like Linux based computers have a TTL value of 64 and Windows have 128. In case you want to stay anonymous or you want to trick the firewall, or if there is an IP table firewall rule which has been enabled onto a Linux server, let's say which blocks all the Windows based ping, and if you have a Windows computer you can always fake your TTL by making it to 64 this way. Here I have made the TTL value of 128 because I was scanning through a Linux computer. Next one is Nmap relays proxy, wherein you can scan through different types of proxies and you can relay your connection through those proxy and remain anonymous. You can also find there are a lot of open proxies on the internet. Just go on Google and search for free open proxies and you can run your Nmap scan through those proxies. The next one is Nmap bogus TCP UDP checksum, in which a random checksum will be added to your particular scan type, and the particular server will not be able to identify that your particular request is coming to that particular target in the piece of chunks. So basically your packet is broken down into pieces of chunks to bypass firewalls. Fragment scan is again the same type of scan, wherein the packet is broken down into chunks and send it to the particular server to bypass any kinds of restrictions by the firewall or IDS. And the last one is the Mtu scan. In the Mtu scan, you can modify your Mtu to 8, 16 or the multiples of 8. So when you modify your Mtu, basically you are changing the header size of your packet to basically bypass some of the restrictions onto the particular target if there are any restrictions kept by the firewall. So I hope you understood this particular cheat sheet, wherein we are able to cover most of the scan types. We have discussed most of the scan types. If you want to see the practical of each scan type on action on the particular server and how we are able to bypass all those targets, then you can always enroll for the Nmap course and you can see the practicals in depth. So I hope you guys understood this cheat sheet, and it will always help you and make you remember whenever you are performing network pen testing using Nmap. So thank you so much.